I don't think anyone is going to disagree with me when I say that the 2D platformer Celeste is a masterpiece. It's a deeply personal dive into mental health and illness, as well as being one of the most fun to control platformers out there. Regardless of all the praise I just lobbed at it, it's also the most perfectly paced game I've played this side of Chrono Trigger, as nearly every level contributes to the overall plot in an interesting way. Many platformers don't even bother too much with a plot, so to see one that's so meticulously crafted is always appreciated. Let's get into it, level by level. The first level, the Prologue, introduces us to the protagonist, Madeline, and her core gameplay mechanic, the dash and the climb. It's a very short level, and it also introduces us to Granny, who will be a recurring character throughout the journey of the game. It's just a small tutorial, and an unobtrusive one at that, considering how it doesn't tell you directly how to play the game. That's a good signpost for how the game operates. None of the mechanics are directly explained, so experimentation is both encouraged and necessary. That's one of my favorite things about Celeste. In our second level, Madeline finds herself in a ruined city on the mountain. While it does bring up some serious lore questions, I think the mysteries of the city are best left unanswered. I mean, this visage of a forgotten city is much more powerful than finding out it was old Greater Victoria or something. Besides, those lore descriptions would break the pace significantly and slow things down. Here we meet Theo, who's sort of Madeline's foil. As opposed to the shy, introverted Madeline, Theo is a wisecracking, extroverted Instagrammer. The two of them become fast friends because they're the only two climbing the mountain, and they talk for a bit. He'll be accompanying us throughout the rest of the game. We also learn that Madeline has been struggling with depression, and that she isn't climbing the mountain for any reason other than she promised herself she would. The mountain as an allegory for mental illness is first really breached here as one of the game's main themes, and it becomes pretty obvious if you didn't already notice. When we get to the third level, this ancient castle where Madeline has strange dreams of a purple-haired version of herself chasing her, the main conflict of the plot is truly introduced. Madeline versus her alter ego, who for the sake of this video I will be calling Madeline, even though she doesn't have an official name. Madeline is a side of Madeline that she doesn't like, and the two constantly come into conflict over the course of the game. This boss fight between them is the first significant altercation between the two, and a very good introduction to Madeline as a character. At the end of the level, Madeline wakes up, and the idea of whether or not Madeline is real is posed for the first time, and really the game ends up deciding that that doesn't matter that much. Our fourth level, a haunted hotel, seems to many like complete filler at first. However, it's a very interesting showcase of Madeline interacting with someone other than Madeline or Theo, someone who's totally detached from most of the game's plot. He doesn't appear anywhere else for the rest of the game up until the very end. Mr. Oshiro, the deceased owner of the haunted hotel. He's a ghost who has a lot of anxieties and pent-up worries from his mortal life, and Madeline tries to help calm him down. Even though she fails at this spectacularly, it tells us a lot about Madeline as a character, how she's willing to go out of her way to help others, how she's willing to use her knowledge of her own struggles in order to help other people through their struggles. Other than that, it's just a solid level with a lot of fun challenge, even though it's kind of contentious. Solid level is all I really have to say about our next offering, too. Golden Ridge is a level that, save for the section where Madeline has a panic attack at the very end in the rickety cable car, doesn't really have a whole lot going on. It's still a very fun level gameplay-wise, but it's kind of a breather from the heavier stuff going on in the plot, especially because the next chapter is going to dive headfirst into that. Mirror Temple is a terrifying look into Madeline's psyche, and is entirely set in the domain of Madeline. Madeline has to save Theo from being trapped inside a crystal in this alternate mirror dimension, and she also has to confront the strange distortions of herself and the monsters she faces here. It's a really introspective look into Madeline's own mind, and a very subtle one. This is probably my favorite level in the entire game. It really feels like the point of no return for the plot. This is where things will start ramping up. The 7th level sees Madeline fall from the climb due to Madeline back to the base of the mountain, and while that's incredibly disheartening at first, you've got bigger fish to fry. This is it, the big final confrontation between Madeline and Madeline. It's a fight that drags on a little too long for my liking, but it's overall incredibly solid. The music is intense, the inner struggle between the two sides of her is palpable, and the gameplay is hellacious. But in the end, Madeline learns that she can't get rid of the side of herself she doesn't like. She has to live with it and learn to get along with it. The two of them then become whole, and Madeline tackles the mountain again, now able to dash twice. The final level is a victory lap back up the mountain. You go back through every level theme, except this time you breeze through them with ease until you eventually get back to the summit. The music rises higher and higher as Madeline does, and then it stops. It's calm as she looks over the setting sun with Madeline. Then the two of them have strawberry pie with their new friends, Granny, Mr. Oshiro, and Theo. It's a real denouement, one of the sweetest moments to come out of any video game. There are a few more levels after this, but I didn't play them, and honestly I think they kind of add unnecessary bloat to the game. The ending with the pie was just fine, but Maddy Thorson felt the need to add the return to the mountain and Madeline dealing with Granny's death for some reason. They aren't really part of the main plot though, which is the part of the game that succeeds so excellently at how it's paced, and you can easily stop at the end of the main plot if you want to. Everything in that simple set of levels is given to you at just the right time, and I don't think that any other game succeeds at this more than Celeste. Even Golden Ridge, which is a level where very little happens in the plot, is important because of how it creates a breather for the player. Maybe it's because it's an indie game and therefore it had to have a tighter focus due to a smaller budget, but I don't really think that matters, because at the end of the day, Celeste is still a masterpiece. Intentional or not, it's the best paced game I've ever played, and that's just one of the many reasons that you should play it. This has been Arcade Everlasting. Sad to see Chrono Trigger dethroned as the ruler of pacing, signing off. Thank you for watching.